Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to my weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream, Crafting Annihilation, which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Tomb of Annihilation. If you're playing characters Mannix, Celeste, Gillian, George, or Theron, go away, turn back now. This is definitely not meant for you, but for the rest of you, welcome. We stream our Tomb of Annihilation sessions live on YouTube every Friday evening. You can catch up on previous episodes on my YouTube page, as well as read weekly session recaps at roguewatson.com. If you'd like to support the channel, check out patreon.com/roguewatson. Shout out to Platinum patrons Andrew, Brian, Richard, Joe, Will, Tiny Dancer, Charles, and Crazy Pat. Gold patrons RPG Papercrafts, Charming Grenade, Pretty Boy and Yuma, Marcos David Vicente, Gilberto Sean, aka Cert2B, Adam, Dead Lizard Lounge, Aukshi, and Sam. Thank you all very much for your support. For our campaign, we use Roll20.net for streaming. I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. Hello, Crazy Pat. So it's been all pirates all the time. For Tomb of Annihilation right now, which I'm pretty pleased about. We got out of the jungle, which was kind of the goal. We spent a long time in the jungle, and I like that we're kind of in phase 2. I don't know what all the phases are for the campaign, but I know the last phase is obviously the titular tomb itself. One phase will be Omu and everything involved in Omu. So maybe we could think of 4 phases. Phase 1, all of the jungle shit. Phase 2, the pirate shit. Phase 3... Oh, but then where does Wormheart Mine and that stuff? That's like phase 2A. My phase breakup is falling apart. At some point between Omu and the pirates, we do Wormheart Mine and Hrakamar, then Omu, then the tomb, which is crazy to think that we're approaching 40 sessions, and it still feels like we've got so much left in this campaign. Like previous campaigns were not this long. I think Storm King's Thunder, and we went from 1 to 11 or 12, took, I want to say, 50 or 60 sessions total. And like I said, we're nearing session 40, and we're not even to Omu yet, and frankly, it's going to be a while, I think, before we get to Omu. So we've got a lot of good content planned, which is cool, and I'm fixing to add another big one that I will go over soon. Hello, Neil and Eldrin. I did remember to turn the mic on, yes, god damn it. I recorded a whole video muted, which probably not the last time I will do that, but god, that's so embarrassingly awful. Not something I can do often in a live stream because people catch that pretty quick, obviously. So the pirate attack, this was interesting because I was really curious to see how the players would handle another pirate encounter, and I was kind of hoping they would do things differently than simply want to fight them, but then I realized that with our last pirate attack, 2 of our players weren't actually here, so they never got to technically experience the pirate battle thing. So thinking on that made me realize that, okay, maybe they do want to actually just get down to the nitty-gritty and do the pirate thing. I don't know if they were particularly clever. Hilariously enough, that, as I mentioned before, I think that actually worked in my favor as the DM because it split the players up and let that Captain Werebore be more powerful in that fight. But in this fight, you can see how devastatingly effective it was for the players to just unleash on all of them grouped together with the players on one pirate captain between Kalessa's like assassin crossbow bolt doing 30, 40 some damage, and then the thorn wall pretty much devastating everybody else. These are not meant to be difficult fights for the players. I was hoping we could do maybe something different, like a naval battle, or they do some kind of tactic to like draw the ship away, but instead they realize that their strength is actually just straight up fighting this group of pirates. So that's fine. I think it was fun, and it didn't. It was just funny how the other fight was such a long, drawn-out battle because the players were all separated and doing their own things, versus this one was over in like, 20 minutes because it lasted like 2 rounds as the players just unleashed all of their things and pretty much kicked ass. I don't think I did hardly any damage to anybody here. A little bit to the Theron Bear form with the first mate going crazy because he is literally a berserker. Now the funny thing is the players basically just tried to tell the remaining crew, hey, why don't you go turn yourselves in to Port Nines? I was very, as a DM, you probably saw the very quizzical look on my face during that session because I was shocked that A, the players would trust these pirates to do the right thing, and B, they kept suggesting, and I think they suggested to the Dragonfang too, hey, why don't you all just go turn in the bounty to Port Nyanzaru, not realizing that, like, Port Nines R would arrest the shit out of any pirates that they saw and just throw them in the brig and then take the shit. Like, and the pirates know that. Like everybody else knows that. It's just weird that the players couldn't quite make that like logical conclusion. And then I explained very obviously that the pirates would not go near the Bay of Chult. They actually don't sail in there because of the dragon turtle. And they don't want to give up any of their loot, so they won't go anywhere near. So, and I realized the players are in a kind of a conundrum, and I wasn't sure as the DM how the players were actually going to solve this. I was kind of hoping they would come up with something interesting or clever, because they get a reward for turning these ships in. Now, I've kind of gated off, a point of no return on Port Nine Zaru, mainly narratively, because I really don't want the players to just shit. It's just not interesting. It's just to have them ship all the way back up, and I have to just. I could like montage it and hand wave their way to flying all the way or sailing all the way back up, turning the ship in, getting a huge monetary payout, and then sailing back down. I don't really want to do that. I want to keep the action moving forward, have them getting into more dangerous situations, but they still have the reward to get these pirate ships. So the players are in a bit of a conundrum in how do they hang on to these multiple giant pirate ships when they can't actually turn them in yet. And I wasn't sure what the answer is. I wasn't really going to spell anything out for them, other than obviously they can commandeer one of them for themselves, which they kind of did at first. But their solution was very odd. They basically told this crew, the Emerald Eye, to just go up outside of the Bay of Chult and just hang out for like weeks on end, which I thought was bizarre. So narratively for me as the DM, I'm thinking there's no way the Emerald Eye is going to stick around. Like they're just gone now. They're probably exited the campaign. The players are never going to see this reward. They could always return, maybe as an enemy in the future. But the other interesting thing is, what do I do with the crew of the Dragonfang? Because now the players spent a little bit more time with them. They kind of talked to Khalida a little bit more, and they used her to sail into the anchorage, and essentially left it where, hey, just for some reason, I forget why, but they said sail away. Like, try to create a distraction and then sail away and leave. Which, as a DM, I'm thinking, okay, well, this pirate's just going to fuck off then and leave y'all here, because I don't know if you've really earned her and this crew's loyalty yet to just stick around and join your forces. I'm not sure. So as a DM, I haven't quite made that decision yet. I know for sure the Emerald Eye, they basically lost that ship. Foolish players just decided, hey, yeah, go wait for us. And the pirates are like, yeah, okay, sure. The Dragonfang, I could see them going either way. I don't necessarily see them completely killing the pirates and trying to fight the adventurers, because they know how strong the adventurers are, but I do see them just bumming off and just trying to escape and just not obviously hanging around, willing to pick up the party at all. So they may have just lost both these pirate ships because of their shenanigans. Now, they'll probably gain the third one here in Jahaka Anchorage, which is the Sturge. So they've got a third pirate ship, assuming they leave some pirates alive, that they could try to sail out of here. So they do have an exit strategy. They don't literally have to go on land, but that could be an interesting possibility if they are in fact land bound. I haven't even thought of this scenario. If they just walk out of the double doors after dealing with it, they could then try to go, because they left the Brazen Pegasus. They told Ordame to wait for them outside of the temple ship location, which is here. So technically they could huff it on land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets, almost a week's journey. Well, I'd fast travel them a little bit longer. So I may have to come up with some beach encounters if I actually want to do that, which is not something I was planning on doing. So maybe I will encourage them to get on the ship and then try to be able to sail. Like they wouldn't. Maybe it'll be a thing like they couldn't really sail out on open waters very well, depending on how many of the crew they have alive. But they could try and like jerry rig it to just get them across the bay towards the Brazen Pegasus, just to get them there faster, because I don't have any real desire to have them fight a bunch of random encounters on the way here. Plus they have the ability to long rest anyway, so they wouldn't even wear them down. So Jahaka Anchorage, and this was another instance where, as the DM, I very much suggested to the players, pretty much openly, I dissuaded them from attacking. That was, I think, their original plan was to open fire on the pirates as a means of distraction. And essentially, as Khalida, I told them, that's going to be the opposite of distraction. You guys are going to stir up the hornet's nest. All these pirates are going to come filing out. You're just going to go into a big war. And as a DM, again, I wanted to use this tavern map. I wanted them to be able to walk into the tavern. It would probably break down into a fight, but I want to have that cool moment, and that would create a different scenario than just using this as the actual battle map. Didn't interest me nearly as much. So I gently dissuaded the players from taking offensive action, instead using a more stealthy approach, which Pass Without Trace pretty much guarantees their stealth, because pirates have like what, a 10 passive perception, like it's garbage. Yeah, so they would be able to get out of there. There was no way they could not stealth their way out of here. I believe Kalita, like told everyone that the captain was injured or they needed assistance or some reason where a bunch of pirates got into like a little dinghy to go kind of investigate and see what was going on, and then the players used that opportunity to sneak around. I forget why, but I'm pretty sure they told Kalita to sail away. Then I guess just so the pirates wouldn't discover that obviously half their crew was dead and all that shit. So they wouldn't, but obviously them turning in, coming in, and then leaving suddenly would be very suspicious, to where the pirates are kind of not really raised an alarm, but definitely, called down to the tavern about that. But at the same time, the players were able to walk into the tavern, and then we got a fun little dialogue session, which was always nice. The players got to kind of throw their weight around a bit, pretend they were Flaming Fist mercenaries, which was fun. But and this was all improv, because I did not have any of this social encounters planned. I really didn't know how the players would play this. I didn't even know if this would be a social encounter. It might have been, where the players insisted on firing on the tavern, that being just a big war zone. So I had Captain Lascalar actually recognize the players via their descriptions, which is kind of always an interesting double-edged sword. As players gain fame and infamy, it can be much harder for them to disguise themselves as anything but who they are, especially if they're very exotic races, which players do love to play exotic races. As D&D has worn on, more and more like monstrous or non-human, but still humanoid races have emerged, and they're very rare. They're still uncommon. Like Dragonborn, I think, are just common enough, but like Tritons and Turtles are still pretty uncommon. And obviously a drow-looking person, half drow, she pretty much looks drow, drow passing, would be very recognizable, and the players didn't try to actually use any physical disguises. So Captain Lascalar immediately recognized all of them as adventurers of Chult, and he knows that they are loaded with good loot from adventuring around ruins and finding a bunch of magical artifacts. And that is literally, I believe, his description from the book is that he is all about, he'll happily pursue adventures across jungles, oceans, steal whatever hard-earned plunder he believes they have. He'd rather seek lost treasures and magic items. So he's all about the magic items. So I think that is in fitting with his character, as he wanted to just the heroes turn over all their loot, which, as we know, player characters are never going to give up their items, just like they're probably never going to surrender if they can help it. So this is obviously going to lead to a combat encounter. I didn't really foresee this as going any other way. I didn't see the players really being able to convince, Lascalar to surrender or anything like that, especially when he's in his lair, essentially. So this is going to end up being a bit, it was a fun social encounter. Regardless, I enjoy any fight that can have some kind of role-playing, at least leading up to it. But ultimately, it is going to... I'm just going to have Celeste kill that person during their surprise round. This is going to lead to a big fight, as we actually ended last session, which I think we ended a little bit early. We usually go closer to 3 hours, but with this session we've been a little shorter because I wanted to end it at that moment. I didn't even have everybody roll initiative yet, but literally it was just like their response was Celeste turning around and knifing some pirate like in the face, and I'm going to count that as her surprise round. This person will die. Everybody will roll for initiative, which... This fight, so much of this rests on initiative, like so much D&D. If I can beat even half the players on initiative with a lot of these forces, that can make a world of difference in terms of me putting the pressure on them. Whereas if I roll really badly on initiative and the players get to just kill a lot of people before I even get to go, that also makes a big goddamn difference. So it'll be interesting to see how this fight plays out. I don't necessarily see this being a huge fight. Let's see, 32. I might have to roll hit points for everybody here. Yeah, I think I do. But hopefully hopefully it's still enjoyable. The players are in such close quarters with everybody that it can be hard to maneuver, which can create a unique battlefield. The ships were a unique battlefield in their way, but I think this one can certainly create an interesting war zone, and I like the appeal of just the tavern. There's chairs and tables everywhere, and just I'm going to try to play up the chaos of everything happening, and people can dive behind chairs and throw, shoot crossbow bolts and all that. Lore-wise, Dragonborn should be one of the lores. That's true. Dragonborn are still pretty. Yeah, they are definitely the most uncommon, unless there's some kind of Dragonborn city they come across. But I would imagine even more uncommon would be Tritons, Drow, and Turtles. I guess technically Chult Turtles would be a little more common. But they unfortunately the Turtles were added after the fact in the Turtle package, so they're not actually any Turtles in Tomb of Annihilation as written. One could roll for hit points for some of these folks, but I don't see this being a particularly difficult fight tactically. Everybody's just going to be firing and shooting. Unfortunately, this mage is not going to last probably 2 rounds. Or no, it's a priest, given that he's right here next to everybody else. I mean, if Kaless goes first, if Kaless beats anybody on initiative, she will just straight up murder somebody, unless they target Lascalar. Which the fun thing is, Lascalar has an interesting escape method. He's got a magical artifact on him, which I don't know if that's actually built into his character sheet. It is not. Oh, there it is. It is. He's got the Cape of the Mountebank, which is I believe an item from the Dungeon Master's Guide. Let's see if it's actually in here. There it is. Very cool looking red cape, which lets you cast Dimension Door once per day, which is essentially a very, very powerful teleport spell, aka the bullshit DM method of escaping with any any NPC you want to escape them with. To teleport yourself from any current location to any other spot within range. The range is 500 feet. So he would obviously teleport to his ship and escape. Once he is attacked. Once he realizes the players are going to start killing them. So the tricky thing is I'm going to try to keep him around. This might be a thing where I have to cheat a little bit and not let him, because I think it'd be really fun to have him stick around. To be able to teleport and escape, and then the players maybe have to hunt him down. Could be interesting. Especially because it would take him a while to actually get the ship and leave. So maybe if they finish up here, they go outside and see that ship starting to leave. There could be an interesting way where they try to, get on board as he's going with the diminished crew, and then he won't be able to use his teleport again. He only has it once per day. So that could actually be an interesting scenario. So I'm going to try to keep him around so he doesn't teleport immediately, but he might have to end up with some plot armor, depending on how much damage the players can do, to where I do want him to get that Dimension Door off, and in order to escape. And I think that could create a cool scenario. I still want the players to stick around in Jahaka Anchorage a little bit more, so I don't think I want him to leave completely, and like I said, it'll take him a while. Combat rounds only last 6 seconds. It would take him a while to actually pull off the anchor and get the crew together and try to realize that he needs to basically flee. So the players will have an opportunity to essentially hunt him down and capture him or kill him, and then they can loot the rest of Jahaka Anchorage. But I like the fact that he could escape using his Dimension Door ability, which he absolutely will. Alright, so let's roll for hit points for him, even though he's basically got exactly as many hit points as he needs to be able to use his Dimension Door ability. GM roll 82. I didn't mean to do that, did I? Did I change? No. Did he just have really low hit points? Why is it average 82? Seems really high. GM roll 10d8 plus 20. Seems really high. 68. Okay. Oh, very good on hit points. Mr. Lascalar. Let's see. Thugs have how much? There's only a couple, which none of the pirate crews were that strong. I mean, the players are level 5, so they're a little bit high level for even dealing with the pirates. What was that? 5d8 plus 10. And And the fact that they've been allowed to essentially long rest in between all these engagements makes them all a little easier. This might be the most challenging one because they have to fight essentially all of the pirates, and then, assuming they don't short rest, they'll have another, I guess, mini encounter as they go into the warehouse where the flying swords await. This is all very average, I think, for the thugs, which are just stronger bandits as far as I can tell. 6. Was Bosco also a thug stat block? Yes, he was. Bosco! Will the tavern keeper join the fight? God, thugs have 11 armor class? That is garbage. They're wearing like a loincloth? What the hell? It's so bad. Knuckles. This pet velociraptor, which I'm sure Theron will probably use animal friendship, which to have him change sides there. 8 plus. So who doesn't want to gain control of a Deinonychus in this fight? Don't know if it's worth rolling for each individual pirate, because at some point there's not a whole lot of difference between 11 hit points and like 7 hit points. The priest I could roll for, though. Because the players can pretty much do that much damage per turn. 5d8 plus 5. 22 is low hit points. Let's try and get a little bit better, because it's a named NPC. I always try to get higher. There we go, 30. That might make a slight difference. Let's see, in terms of tactics, the priest probably can't do much. Spirit Guardians, probably the best thing to do. Can also cast Spiritual Weapon. Cure Wounds, that's just kind of a pain in the ass. I want to fight enemies that can heal. Oops, that's Restoration. Wait, where's... Oh, level 3 is right here. Spirit Guardian, that's the one where they float around you, right? Call forth spirits protect you. They flit around you to a distance of 15 feet for the duration. If you're a good or neutral spectral, I don't care. When you cast the spell, you can designate any number of creatures you can see to be unaffected by it. An affected creature's speed is halved. When the creature enters the area for the first time on a turn or starts its turn there, must make a Wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes 3d8 radiant damage or 3d8 necrotic damage. Yeah, so that's probably the best thing he can cast. Just turn that on. That's most likely concentration. Yes. But, I mean, I don't know if I'll even get a turn off with him. We'll see. This is going to be a big battle. I don't see him lasting too long. I see like a lot of crossbow shots going off, which sometimes that can be very effective. Whenever they had the Flaming Fist encounter, I was hitting with all those crossbow shots, so it's just kind of random. I mean, if Gillian gets a turn off before my pirates, that's going to make a big decision, because she can either sleep them or cast Shatter or whatever. That's going to probably down a bunch of them. I need to turn off their nameplates. It gets annoying. Where were they all? Boom, boom, boom. So a lot of this just depends on what the initiative looks like. And then, so I'm going to have Lascalar escape using his magical cloak. I'm going to play up the fact that he swirls this cloak and then brimstone appears, and the players will have some questions about what the hell is going on. I do have the pirates upstairs, which could technically join the fight. So, might have them come in. It's just, why didn't I just copy one of these without the nameplate? Takes up too much room. Are they off screen? Mostly. Put them here. Maybe after the first round of fighting, they can actually appear from up there, firing their crossbows. I assume crossbow is probably the best thing they can do. +3 to hit, average 5 damage, and they're not in range. Yeah, everybody's shooting crossbows. Let's see, what else is going on in Jahaka Anchorage? So they'll fight this battle, which could go, it could go either way in terms of difficulty. A lot of this depends on initiative, a lot of it. In terms of surrender, I think the pirates here would be less likely because they are already kind of in a drunken stupor, which I'm not, I don't think I'm going to impose disadvantage because the players are already a lot stronger than the pirates here. But in terms of their surrender, they would probably be less likely to surrender unless the players kill a bunch and then do some kind of good intimidation check or something. But I will try to remember that they can flip tables and gain some bonus cover in that way to at least give them a fighting chance, because their armor class is god awful. At least half cover. It's +2 bonus to AC. For those that die behind, and Bosco can have half cover behind the bar area. After this fight, Lascalar will escape. He's going to teleport onto his ship, and he's going to immediately try to start calling the few crew that are here, which is not going to be much. So it's going to take him a while to try and, hoist the anchor and do all that good stuff. So the players should be able to catch him, depending on how long they spend in this fight, probably on his ship. Maybe, and I'm not going to be able to move this because it's tied to the map, so he's probably still trying to get away. And if the pirates run at him with anything, if the players run at him, in an aggressive manner, he will probably just surrender pretty soon after that. And the players can decide what they want to do with him from there. Otherwise, they'll be able to loot this warehouse. They will have to fight these flying swords in here. They will find the eye patches, I think, in the tavern. But they won't have a clue that they have to put those on to bypass the flying swords. Or deactivate them, I guess. I think that's the idea here. Let's see. Pier, officer's quarters, warehouse. Animated blades don't attack any creature wearing an eye patch, nor do they animate when an eye patch wearing creature disturbs the treasure. The treasure is a pretty good loot haul. 6,400 copper, 2,500 silver, 300 gold, 60 platinum, 10 gold bracelets at 25 gold each, electrum goblet, and 2 spell scrolls. I probably need to replace those scrolls with something else. I haven't quite figured that out yet. Knock and Layman's tiny hut. I don't know if I want to have any actual magic items, though, because I feel like if the pirates found any magic items, they would have them on them, kind of similar to how Lascalar has that red cloak. So, but none of them are spellcasters, so they wouldn't necessarily have spell scrolls. So I kind of like the way that that's divvied up. No magic items, but just kind of monetary loot. But it's still a pretty damn good haul. And then I don't think I'm going to put any pirates up here, because again, it just seems anticlimactic to have any kind of pirate fighting after the big one in the tavern. And then they'll be able to rescue Roka, who Roka's deal was he wanted to use the pirates for his own ends, have them join the Zentarum instead of the Flaming Fist. So depending on how much information he wants to give the players, that the players want to give him, he might still try to have that be the case, because the other 2 pirate ships are now out in the world captainless, so he could see that as an opportunity. Roka may even want to stay here and hang out, although it's going to be pretty much empty. And maybe, I don't know what he's going to do. Try to call for reinforcements, or because they'll have to find the sending stone. So maybe the sending stone's in the warehouse right now. That'd be good. He can find the sending stone in the warehouse, the one that the pirates had, because they dumped it in the warehouse after they realized it was compromised. And then he can use that to then contact the sending stone at the Zentarum and tell them about what went down here, and then also to where he is, and if he can have the Zentarum essentially take over this operation, knowing that the other pirates are out there, but they're without captains. And that's assuming I would probably let the players take the Sturge. In fact, maybe they want to do something crazy where they keep Lascalar as the as somebody who sails the ship, but he's kind of captured under their employ. So that could be kind of interesting twist. Also, they actually keep Lascalar with them. We'll have to see. But Roka may join them or may hang out in the anchorage, and that's kind of up to the players and what they want to do. But his ultimate goal is not necessarily to join the players at all, but to essentially establish control of Jahaka Anchorage. That's true, Lumpy. If anyone puts on the eye patch, it'll be George. I think George is already wanting to embrace the pirate life, and more power to him. In which case, if he happens to be the first one to walk through, then it won't trigger the swords, and then assume the entire party is not going to don eye patches, so it will eventually trigger, and they'll be in a fight with a bunch of flying swords, which might be a little trickier depending on how much damage the players take. They don't have any hit points, but they do have a decent armor class at 17, and there's just a lot of them. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for attacks. Only a +3, but having that many is very interesting. Although with that low of hit points, they're very susceptible to any kind of AoE damage attack, which this party is not very good at. They only have pretty much... well, I guess they have Theron's Wall of Vines, which can be very, very effective if it's set up correctly. And then it's just Gillian's Shatter Spell, I believe. So I see them basically completing Jahaka Anchorage with tomorrow's session. This tavern fight will be probably half the session, and then the other half will be cleaning up the mess with Lascalar, rescuing Roka, and then getting into the warehouse and defeating the flying swords, which I do see them being able... Like, some of the pirates probably will surrender, maybe. I don't see necessarily all of them fighting to the death, but it would be a little trickier. If the captain escapes, they'll try to say something. The players are probably like, "Oh, your captain fled, blah, blah, blah." And, maybe some of the pirates will try to edge their way out as well, but surrender would be a little more difficult for them here, just because they're boldened with alcohol, as it were. But I see the players pretty much clearing out Jahaka Anchorage tomorrow and cleaning this mess up. I haven't quite decided. Maybe it's interesting if the players get on the Sturge, they've taken out Lascalar or captured him or whatever, they're leaving, they head towards the Pegasus, and they find Khalida is trying to attack the Pegasus, maybe, because she knows where the Pegasus went, and she knows she might still be able to take him off, because she's actually got some of her crew on the Pegasus, which is her crew now, technically. So maybe that could be an interesting scenario. The players arrive at a naval battle between the Dragonfang and the Pegasus, and then maybe the Dragonfang will just flee when they see the players arrive. The players can get a few shots off with their ballista or whatever. I feel like we've done all this ship stuff. We haven't actually done like ship combat. We've just done kind of the boarding thing. So I think that could be an interesting scenario to make it a little more interesting. Whether or not, and then Khalida, obviously, when she sees the players, she would probably back off at that point. Once she sees the Sturge, and I would assume she would probably put 2 and 2 together once the Sturge starts firing on her. So she would probably just run away, and it's up to the players to try to catch her, or more than likely try and rescue Ordomé and the Pegasus. Which brings us to our next event, which is the Typhoon Palace. This is the dungeon that was added in the Turtle package, which is obviously where the turtles come from. So it was not technically part of Tomb of Annihilation, but I really liked the design of this dungeon. It obviously fits in Tomb of Annihilation very, very well, and specifically fits on the coast. Very well. I freaking tickle my throat. It's designed to be on the Turtle Island. Obviously, I moved it because I'm not doing the Turtle Island, and instead I'm going to tie it into Gillian's personal quest. So the way I'm treating my players' personal quests, and I respect campaigns that make it all about the players. I like that a lot. Since I like to run like official campaigns with their own ongoing stories, and then I have the players have kind of side personal quests that can be fulfilled. Very much set up like a like any party-based RPG, where it's like you've got the main plot, but then also you've got stories you can explore with each of your characters. All the the Mass Effect and the Dragon Age games did this. Baldur's Gate games, all those things have these kind of is this similar structure where you still have the main quest, but every party member you get has essentially at least one overarching quest you can tackle, and that's kind of where I'm going with this. So obviously Theron's is Wormheart Mine, and I try to tie it into things that were already baked into this campaign. So Kalessa's was Zagmira, which is one of the Red Wizards, bumming around Omu, so she'll meet them. Manix is all about trying to find artist Kimber, which they will be able to find him, probably either near or in or on the way to Omu. A lot of them are going to be near the end of their exploration, which will transition us into Omu, which is what did I say, like phase 4 out of 5 or something. It's not quite the end game, but nearing that point. Gillian's is definitely going to be the earliest one. Oh, and George's will be. I guess he still needs to fight a Commandant at some point, which I've got some room for him to have some more encounters. I will have to have a Commandant encounter. But eventually George will learn that his ultimate beast that he has to hunt is the King of Feathers in Omu. So that'll be his personal quest will be complete at that point. So most of them in Omu. Gillian's is the only one that's going to be kind of earlier than everybody else because it just fits really well. The Typhoon Palace was created when a temple ship to Umberlee crashed into this location, and then a bunch of turtles found these priests and were enamored with them and then built this palace. I'm kind of eliminating the turtle equation out of that and just having it be that this was the temple ship that Gillian and her brother were diplomats on with kind of an envoy to try and stop this war that was happening in her Triton part of the ocean between the forces of evil ocean people, followers of Umberlee, and then her own people. And her people were attacked and slaughtered, except for her, who was able to escape, and she doesn't know what the fate of her brother was because she was separated from the boat. And this happened decades ago. I think I said that was decades ago. This will be one of those, like, when they reach it, if this was like a Game of Thrones episode, it'd be like previously on, and it would show like events from like 3 seasons ago, and you're like, oh, I wonder why this is relevant. I need to do like one of those, like, hey, remember about your backstory. The cool twist here will be that her brother was killed, and he is a spirit because in this dungeon, which is called Dangwaru, in the Turtle package, aka the Typhoon Palace, there's like a cage where a ghost is being kept, and I'm theming that as her brother, so she will find the spirit of her brother. There'll be some kind of enchantment placed over the temple which prevents him from being sucked into the Soulmonger, which is just kind of hand-waving for me, like, well, why did we encounter this ghost when ghosts are being sucked into the Soulmonger? That's why. I don't know if the players even think of to say that, but I'm ready with that defense. And the twist that I'm going to reveal in the story is that he and the priestess had a little romantic liaison while they were there as the diplomats, and she convinced him to essentially give up like the key to their room or some means to let her people come in and take them out. And maybe he wasn't fully aware of the fact that would happen, but or maybe she just like snuck in and stole a key during one of their romantic encounters or some way where he wasn't necessarily privy to that, but his actions allowed it to happen. And that ended up slaughtering all of her people. So obviously he's got a lot of regrets, and he's kind of stayed on as a spirit because he's got he's very upset about this. And at the end, the priestess is also there, but she's been transformed into some kind of monster, and I haven't quite decided. I need to scale it up a little bit. I guess I can actually show you the map while I'm talking about it. I just recently put this map on here. I'm going to need to scale it up a little bit because I think it's designed for like level 3 to 4, and the players are going to be level 5 still when they enter here. So I'm going to scale it up slightly, and I frankly need to scale everything up because players, from my experience, are always stronger than you think. So I'm going to scale everything up a little bit, and maybe by scale up I just mean like more powerful monsters than what's already written here. Like I think the end boss is like a giant snail with slightly different abilities. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. So I'm probably going to make it like a Kraken Priest or something appropriate, and she's going to have like a bunch of Chul with her. You know, a lot of it's a good opportunity for a lot of cool like demon and underwater themed enemies, which is going to be neat. But her deal was that she actually did develop feelings for this Triton, and Umberlee punished her by crashing their ship, by essentially sending a storm and crashing their ship into this area. And they tried to win back her favor by then building a grand temple out of the remains of their huge, I'm picturing like a cruise ship type thing, building a giant temple to Umberlee out of the ship, and then she ultimately did kill him, and she has been transformed into kind of a monstrous servant of Umberlee at this point. So she's been given power back, but she's kind of remained here as now just a temple. And then her worshippers will be seen as, I haven't quite determined if they're going to be maybe other like fish monsters, or if I'm going to go with the shadow route. Just kind of depends on what I think is more interesting. I haven't filled this dungeon out yet at all. But I think it's a cool opportunity. I'm really looking forward to it for being a storytelling opportunity for one of the characters, for having some cool revelations about, like, you know, oh, the brother's dead. Oh my gosh, he was the one that sort of helped betray your people. And oh my gosh, the priestess is still alive, and she's the one that killed, you know, having these cool story moments I think will be really nice. And maybe even do that thing that I did in Oralunga where I have the players show up and they see, like, the ghostly events play out in the past, which could be like... the main one I'm thinking of is her ritualistically sacrificing Gillian's brother, and she's, you know, there could be a little bit of drama there, so that could be a cool scene that they find. But I think this could be a really interesting, fun dungeon. It's not the most high, it's a really good map. It's not the most high resolution map, and unfortunately it was designed for 1 square equals 10 feet, so that's why I blew it the hell up right here. Your options with Roll20 are basically either to double the size of the map or shrink the size of the squares. And I prefer doubling the size of the map, so the squares are still like good size, but then you can see as I just zoomed in here, the quality dips down pretty low. I'm hoping this is good enough. I still think this is a better solution than subdividing the squares and making tiny tokens, because that really annoys the crap out of me and the players, I think. But unfortunately that makes it so this map is not quite as good looking, because the map that I have is not the highest resolution. But it's a really neat design map. It's right here. You can see on the... I'm going to just zoom in, or zoom out, sorry. It's located right on the edge, and you can see just like roaring waves, and it's got this neat like a middle area that actually hangs over the water. There's a classic rickety bridge over the water here, and there's a lot of good stats for that. This is the final room here with the tentacle shrine. The entrance, I believe, is up here at the top, and they'll have to go all the way to the bottom here, which is where the brother is kept in a kind of area that the priestess doesn't know that he's still alive as a ghost. She kind of remains in this temple area, and she doesn't know why she's confined to this area, but the brother stays on and has been waiting for Gillian to come and find him. And then I'm going to try to come up... I haven't come up with the rules yet, but I want her to then... the goal of all these personal quests is to give the players a really cool signature magic item that is like flavored to them, which I think is always a neat thing you can do for creating magic items for your players. You know, once you realize their play style and how they like to do things, you can pretty easily come up with magic items that just make them more powerful, be able to do things that they like more. So I want to give her, I'm thinking, the ability of gaining her ghostly brother. I was going to do some joke about the fact that, if you recall, during the opening of Tomb of Annihilation, I had everybody roll for a random trinket as part of their backstory, and most of them were hilariously weird and strange and didn't fit at all, which was funny. But with hers, it was like a jar of lard or something. Like, there's no... I was like, what item did your brother give you? And that was what she rolled. I was like, this is so hilariously stupid. But I think I'm going to have something like, do you still have that jar of lard, Gillian? Because it's like, it matters so much to them for some reason, and he's going to be able to, like, possess the jar of lard like a soul jar, and she'll be able to essentially carry around her spirit brother and I haven't quite determined mechanically what that's going to do, but I'm thinking maybe he can like empower all of her spells or something, like as if it were a higher spell slot, and then it would either be based on charges or just straight up like once or twice or three times a day, depending on what the balance level is. I haven't thought of that, but I thought that would be a really neat reward. He would basically tell her you need to defeat the priestess, and then I can be free. And then when when they defeat the priestess, then he actually wants to stay with Gillian to make amends for what he perceives as being his fault for the downfall of their little diplomatic envoy. So I think that'd be a fun reward, is that he can stick around as a little spirit guide helper. But I was thinking like just any opportunity you could use to pump your spell up by one spell slot. I think he would have that ability, which I'm hoping is kind of cool and flavorful enough. And there could be a little bit of role playing where he like comes out of the, I picture this whole animation where he comes out like a genie or something, like waves his arms and makes the spells more powerful, which I think is really cool. But I'm looking forward to the Typhoon Palace. I need to still actually build this out. This is just the actual base map. I still have to do dynamic lighting. I'll need to put the tokens in there and then plan all those story moments. I may have to even do a bunch of original monsters, because I believe the monsters that appear in here aren't necessarily... they don't have Chules in here. So I'll have to put a bunch of monsters. I think I've already got them. Let's see, are they in the... Can I find them in here? Yeah, so I could actually use like these character sheets and then use my own tokens that I've used previously. So I think I can use most of them, but scale it up and make it a little more interesting. So at least a cool final fight. But I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably be... I wanted to cover this one because more than likely I'll be building this one next week also, because so presumably tomorrow we'll be doing Jahaka Anchorage, all those things that I talked about, the bar fight, the warehouse fight, chasing Alaskalar, and then it's probably going to be too much to cover than leaving Jahaka Anchorage, probably in Jahaka Anchorage, and then the week after that will be if I want to do that naval battle with Captain Ortome, and then them entering the Typhoon Palace. So I'll have, I think, at least 2 weeks to this week and then next week to actually prepare the Typhoon Palace. Before I leave you, we will not be having D&D on the last week of June. Well, I haven't determined exactly if we're going to try to do a makeup session or not. I can just tell you we will not be doing D&D on Friday, June 28th. We're going to be out of town for that weekend. So I haven't determined if we're going to do it like Thursday night or if we're just going to not do it that week. We'll still be looking at that, but just a heads up, for sure we won't be having D&D Friday night, but we'll be normal schedule this week and next week on the 21st. So I will have plenty of time to prepare for the Typhoon Palace and more pirate-y shenanigans, and then really wrap up the whole ship part of the adventure, although we'll still have... I don't know if I'll actually have any encounters between Jahaka Bay and Shilku Bay. I could just hand-wave them across, because at this point, there's not really any more... Like, the pirates kind of were the sea encounters. So I might just hand-wave their path to Wormheart Mine. There could be a cool scene where the dragon maybe comes in and fights them a little bit. I don't know how much the dragon would be paying attention to ships coming in, but it's still miles and miles away. So, but that'll be the next thing we'll tackle, is preparing Wormheart Mine. I don't think... Is Shilku actually a thing? I don't think Shilku's a thing, is it? Shilku is... Oh, wait, I'm on the SRD. So the journal, because that's actually on the maps. The player's going to ask about it. I guess it's just the land of Cholton. Let's see, it's actually quicker for me to look through the book than it is here. What is Shilku? What's funny is so much of the Cholt stuff is just a small part of the book, and then everything else is Omu and the actual tomb. It takes up the most part. Shilko is an abandoned coastal village destroyed and preserved by volcanic eruption. So there's absolutely nothing in there. Oh. Devoid of human life, the city is far from dead. Mephits, fire newts, salamanders, and other heat-loving creatures prowl its ashen alleys and bore tunnels into cellars long sealed by volcanic stone. God, that seems like a really neat location that I don't have anything prepped for. You could do a whole like volcano ash-covered city. I suppose if whoever the NPC is with them will be able to tell them Shilku has been destroyed and is just a volcanic mess. So unfortunately, not the safe haven they're hoping for. So it'll be Wormheart Mine will be the next prep, slash Hrakamar will be tied together. And then I'll actually have to do a little bit of jungle prep and story prep, because as I said, I want to try to probably do the Artist Kimber, Steel Predator, Zandala follow-ups before we get to Omu. So this will be the last little gauntlet of jungle encounters before we get to Omu, and then we'll be doing Omu. And then after they do the Typhoon Palace, I'll probably level them up to 6, which we've actually been 5 for quite a while, ever since they did, I believe they were 5 for Firefinger, and then returning to Port Ninezaru, and then going down Jahaka Anchorage, they're 5, and then Typhoon Palace, they're 5. So they've been 5 for a while. They'll be 5 for a while longer, because the Typhoon Palace will take at least 2, maybe even 3 sessions. So I'll level them up to 6 after that, and then when they come down and do Wormheart Mine and Hrakamar, at some point, either upon reaching Omu or after Hrakamar, just depending on where I feel the players are, I will have them get to 7. So I've really been slowing down their experience rate a lot, but I think it's been in keeping with the fact that most of the jungle is built for Tier 1, with I don't think hardly anything actually built for Tier 2. So even with them being on this higher end, I'm having to scale things up a little bit. Omu is when it's finally starting to build for Tier 2, with Omu and the Fane of the Night Serpent being the Tier 2 location. And Omu's huge. It's got all these different things, like mini areas in it. And then the actual Tomb of Annihilation at Tier 3. So that's kind of the level scaling. Alright, I think that will do it for this week's Crafting Annihilation. Thank you all for joining me. We'll be here for tomorrow for Tomb of Annihilation, and tomorrow afternoon I'll be here for more Banner Saga 3 doing my Let's Plays. See y'all then. Bye.